Good morning, everybody. So this is one of the wonderful things about where I work now. I can work from anywhere. So even though we're down at the beach on vacation, I decided to do a short little quick 30-minute something. And this is based off of the workout program that I've put together. It's like a 30-day challenge where there's some sort of challenge that you put onto yourself each day. But then there's a stacking of a few things that you want to make sure that you hit, like some core activation, some rolling. So while I'm talking, kind of telling you a little bit more about that, I want you to get a ball or your MYT-ROLLER, because we're going to start with some foot rolling. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on each foot. Make sure you remember, if this is your first time coming onto the class, make sure that you always have some part of the foot on the ground that you're rolling. And you're always just trying to find the spot where you can relax your foot around the ball, let the pressure push into your foot, and try and find length into the leg as you put your weight onto it. And so you're not rolling it around as much as you're like hunting for landmines. And so right now we're landmine hunting on the front half of one foot. So I want to stay there and just kind of keep rocking back and forth from it. If you have the MYT-ROLLER, you can use the wooden ball at the end of the stick. I don't think that the big blue ball is the best for this one because of the fact that it's just so big and you can't get your heel on the ground and it just can't put the pressure on it. So don't forget your toes. You can even bend your toes back on it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put my foot in front of it. If you have something to hold on to, that's great. But use your toes to kind of, or use the heel of the other foot to really hold the ball still so it doesn't pop out. And you can really bend your toes back and get a good stretch. So let's switch over to the other foot. And so today I'm going to go back to, while we're doing the same landmine hunting, we're going to do the front of that foot. Don't go back to the heel on the ball yet. And what I want to do today is really kind of show you how easy it is to kind of put together some exercises without overthinking it, without spending a ton of time. It's kind of like the most bang for your buck. I want to give you 30 minutes or less to get something done, feel good about what you did, but not overthink it and worry too much that you hit everything or that you're going to do something to bother any pains. We just want to wake up your core. We want to get your body moving, and we want to have a little fun. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to switch it back to the other foot, and I want you to do the back of your heel, or from the back of the arch into the heel. So when you do this one, I usually tell people to put your other foot in front and make sure you're up on both toes, like you're in a fake set of heels, because if you're on that heel on the other leg, that puts your pelvis into a shift. So we want to really just kind of, again, find those landmines, release your foot around the ball, and try and get all the areas of your heel, including the edges. Like, those edges hide a lot of really important stuff that we need to get into. So don't underestimate getting into the pads on the outside edge of your heel. So let's go ahead and let's switch to the other foot. And I don't know about you, but this also allows me, when I do this foot rolling, this is usually when I'll turn my music on. This is usually when I turn a fan on if it's hot. But this is when I kind of just start psyching myself up for some exercise. And the ball kind of allows me to get there without just jumping full force into it. It kind of wakes up my body a little bit. It allows me to focus on what I'm getting ready to do. I'm not spending 10 minutes on it. I'm spending about 30 seconds to 45 seconds per quarter or per half of my foot. So essentially we're talking about a minute and a half per foot. It's time well spent, and it shouldn't be overlooked because your feet are too important. So on that note, we're going to do a little bit of core activation. And whenever we're doing core activation exercises, with this workout, we're going to do two types of core activation exercises. Two of my favorites. I'm kind of keeping it easy today. I want a beast, and we're going to do a bird dog. And with that beast and bird dog, I want to challenge you all to do the hardest thing you do well, meaning if it's your first time, make sure you're doing what I say. If it's your 15 millionth time doing these, challenge yourself, ladies. Get a band out, put it on your arms. Get a band out, put it on your legs. Put a block in a harder position to challenge yourself. But do something to really make sure that you're working hard, because when people start doing just a little bit or do what they know they can do, that's when we have pain start creeping in. So let's go ahead and come down to the mat, and I want you to use your block in whatever position you're going to use it in. Let's put it onto your back. Make sure, oh, the wind is going to really knock mine for a loop today, so I'm going to put mine flat, even though I like to challenge myself. But as before we lift off of our knees, I want everybody to make sure that the first thing that you do is your knees should be kind of wide on the outer edges of the mat, not on the edge, but closer to the outside than the inside. I want to make sure that our head isn't hanging down to the mat by really pushing our chin away from the mat, almost giving ourselves a double chin, but thinking more about the length of your neck lengthening that way as your shoulders push that way. And just try and feel that activation of this area to make sure that that's what you're holding yourself up with here, guys. Make sure you are not letting that head drop. So real quick, we're going to do a minute on each of these. So if you need to take a break, you'll hear my beeper go off. That will be your halfway point. If you want to take a little break, you're welcome to do it there. If you don't, then you can go ahead and just go through the second beep, and I'll tell you when to stop. All right, so let's go ahead and push that chin and shoulder blades away. Float your knees off the mat. And then work on, if you're going to do movements, work on the small, teeniest movements you can. Feel the block on your back. Make sure that you're not letting that block flatten on your back. Make sure it's not wobbling all over the place. Try to go a little bit left and right if you've done this before. Make sure your knees are always staying a little wider than your feet. And make sure it feels like at all times your legs are relaxed. That's your first half, guys. Make sure that you feel like your legs are relaxed, and it's like the only thing holding yourself up is the upper body pushing away from the floor. And so we've got about 15 seconds left. Keep feeling that block. Keep challenging yourself. If you took a break, if you need to take a break, just come back to it. 4, 3, 2, set your knees down. And if you want to use your block, you can use your block to sit on. If you want to get into a shin box just to relax, that's fine too. I am not going to do a lot of assessments on the shin box today. However, if you want to use any of the opportunities that we sit back during these beasts and bird dogs to check your shin box, go for it. It's always good to make sure you have a check on that each day. So for our next set, we're going to do our bird dog. And for the bird dog today, I'm going to put my band around my thighs. And it shouldn't be your heaviest band, guys, okay? It should be something middle of the road, okay? We don't want to get caught up in a fight with the band. Like, this band is pretty light, got a little bit of give to it. So just make sure whenever I give you the cue for you to widen or think about this A-frame position between your legs, I want you to make sure that this is what I see, that little triangle of space reaching length, like my knees are going long away from that space. I do not want you thinking when I say width that you want to try and bring that leg over and now I've come over that hip in a way I don't want to. So it's really just a matter of feel the A-frame, and as you lengthen a leg off, maintain the A-frame and make sure you don't slip into an I or a J, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna do 30 seconds each leg. And guys, with the bands, I would kind of keep them up close to your pelvis. It doesn't need to be down by your knees too much, because that'll kind of make you want to go into the band fight, and we don't want it. So let's go down onto your hands and knees. Move your block if it was in the way. Push your chest and chin away from the ground. And now lengthen one arm and one leg as you reach through the heel and reach through the fist. That palm should be facing towards the middle of that hand reaching. Make sure your shoulders are pushing away from your hand. Make sure you're not going for height of the heel, rather length and A-frame, driving length and energy through the middle of your kneecap. Just relaxing the toe and pushing through your foot, pushing your chin and chest away. 2, 1, bring that knee down nice and wide. Bring the hand down nice and wide. And let's go ahead and do the other side. Sorry, I forgot my block. But if you did it, great. If you didn't, let's grab that block. And now lengthen on the other side. Using that band to help you feel that when you push out of the middle of that knee. There is no pinch. You're always trying to put gentle stretch on that band. Keep pushing your shoulder and your chin away from the ground. Keep pushing your shoulders away from your ears and that reaching fist. Keep reaching the knee long and flexing your quad as your heel drives long. 3, 2, and rest. Go ahead and take the block off. Grab a quick drink of water. And we're going to come up to our feet next. And with this next one, or this next series, we're working on getting your heart rate pumping. So I'm going to be breathing pretty heavy here. So I'm giving you a kind of a sneak peek at, a lot of times as instructors, we don't really want to do hard stuff in our workouts, because that means if I got to give you cues through it, I got to be able to talk through it. So pardon me, I am going to get a little out of breath today, but it's part of what I'm asking you to do. So I'm going to own that I got to do it too. And just imagine, as you're doing all these exercises, that you're trying to lead a class through it. So just again, remember, slow your breath down. Whenever you hear me breathing heavy, take that as a reminder for you to slow your breath as well, because I got to keep remembering to do that too. And just really remember, it's focusing the exhale to slow. You can keep that quick inhale. I don't care about that inhale. Take it quick. But exhale it slow. And when you're using your inhales and your exhales during your exercises, when you're really needing to push through things, you should really execute with that big exhalation during the hard thing. So it's like if somebody punched you at the height of your shoot through, at the height of your squat, at whatever you're doing, you want to feel that that energy is going through your abs and it's tight. So hopefully everybody got a chance to catch your breath and to get a drink of water. We are going to start with your shoot throughs, and you don't need your band, so you can take that off. And so for the shoot throughs, listen guys, we got 5 of these sets, okay? And this is why I like it, because I hate cardio. I hate going out and doing anything that is slow or just monotonous for 25 minutes to 30 minutes. Studies show that you need anaerobic just as much as you need that constant cardio. And the constant cardio is what breaks your joints down. So if we can be doing healthy stuff and doing it pretty intensely, that's going to be better than trying to run and break our knees and our hips and our neck and our shoulders down. So I want you to pick this weight. If you have never done a shoot through before, then you're going to listen to some of the cues I give. If you're a pro shoot thrower, been doing it for years, then what I want you to do is focus a little bit more on your warm-up weight this time, okay? So we are going to do another 4 sets after this, and they're going to be slightly different, but this is going to be your warm-up set of your shoot through. So grab something that's half to 3/4 of the way to your challenge weight, okay? So with this first set, it's all about imagining your body as a slingshot. Your pelvis is the pull back agent. Where your rock would be sitting is what your pelvis is. So as you're going down into this squat, it's like somebody's pulling you with a string out the bottom of your butt, and they're pulling you back to cock you into that position, so that when you want to drive and you want to shoot that rock forward, you want to drive your hips away from the floor, and at the same time we want the elbows to release nice and wide, so we catch the weight without any effort really being given by our arms. The one thing I want you to be aware of is do not bicep curl the weight up. You want to chicken wing the weight up. Okay, so it's very wide to catch it in. We're not pinching our elbows in. We're just keeping everything flowing. So let's go ahead and pick up your weight. Start nice and tall. Squeeze your imaginary dollar bills under your armpits. And so now we're going to go 30 seconds. Load your slingshot. Shoot that weight up. Slide it back down. Good, guys. Really make sure you're looking forward and down at the bottom, and then forward at the top. Make sure you're not looking up at the bottom like a lot of people tend to do in their squats. You want to feel your hips opening as you go down, exploding up as you come up. You want your arms just to allow that bell to shoot through that space right close to your belly button. That's it. Set the weight down and rest. So now typically when I do those in class or in personals, I'll follow that with a sit into a really low goblet squat. And next time I will do that. Any of these that you feel that fits into, if you've been doing this a while and want to do that for a few seconds, even though I might not, feel free. Push those knees apart, really feel that wishbone. So let's go ahead and we're going to do another shoot through. This time, if you want to move up in your weight a little bit, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. Let's go ahead and I'm going to switch mine. And so let's go ahead and pick up your weight, bring it up to your top position, and let's go ahead and shoot them through, ladies and gentlemen. Good. Pinch those arms at the bottom, pinch those arms at the top. Your dollar bills are on your ribs like glue this whole movement. Use those hips to drive that weight up. I'm going to do a few from this side. Really opening the knees without lifting any part of your foot at the bottom. 3, 2, and if you'd like to sit down into a squat, think about pelvis as wide as possible, elbows to the knees so you can rest, and then push your elbows into your knees to widen them up, and then push your knees back into your elbow. Push your knees a little wider with your elbows, and now push back into your elbows with your knees. And then let the bell bicep curl down to the floor. Think about wide knees as you come up. Beautiful. All right, so take a little second here. Grab a drink of water. 2 down, 3 to go. We're going to do something a little different on the next one. We're going to do a thruster set, but you get a choice. Now, these thruster weights for me today are pretty heavy and pretty intense. I don't really feel up to thrusting these today. That's just not my thing on my first set. I may do it on the second set. But for the first set, I want everybody to try using a band on your wrists. All right, and so with this band, the right resistance is key. We want to feel that when we're in this position to start, where our elbows are maybe a little lower than your shoulders. I don't need them to be fighting to keep this position the whole time. What I want them to do is feel relaxed at the bottom, but there's just a little bit of width on that band. I do not want it to look like this. I want to see parallel hands perpendicular to the ground. Okay, parallel arms. Make sure your wrists aren't doing this kind of funky thing. We want to keep our wrists nice and long, imagining space coming through here. And so what we're going to do with our thrusters with the band is that we're going to load our hips back while we're in this position. And then we're going to push our arms straight as we really qualify that our ribs stay anchored down, our shoulders stay anchored down, and that at the top, we don't let something like this happen. So in the beginning, you may feel things kind of get up, but what your goal by the end of the set is to do is to try and find that good position before you get to the top, as opposed to having to get to the top and then adjust to fix it. Okay, so that's all you're trying to do for your set. Don't push yourself too hard. Hardest thing you do well, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's give it a whirl. We're gonna do 30 seconds. Ready? And load your hips back, shoot them up, load the hips back, shoot them up. When your elbows come down, I want them feeling like they're a retractable cord in a vacuum cleaner, and you're pulling those elbows back into your hips as you load your hips back. As you drive up, make sure your elbows go all the way straight, but also challenge those ribs and shoulders to stay anchored down and to not go too high. And relax. So, a kitchen timer or a little quick timer. I love this one. They're on Amazon. These things are key. Don't mess around too much with apps unless you're really app savvy, because if you're spending more time turning on and turning off a timer other than like doop with your foot or doop with your finger, it's just too much, and you're not gonna finish and execute to that fullest. You're always going to dive out a little early to factor in that timer time. So really find something that's simple. This goes with me everywhere. It's always quick to use. So let's go for another set. And this time we're going to go to the shoot throughs. I'm actually going to, if you have any jewelry on, now's the time to kind of remove it. So if you want to try a single arm shoot through, then we can do that next. If you are not sure about that single arm shoot through and you want to do another double regular shoot through, then stick with that, okay? But I'm going to go for a single arm, and I want your focus to really be on checking your shoulders and being square. If you don't have a mirror nearby, I would stick with the double arm because it's just a little too hard to feel out if you're not, even if you are seasoned at this one. So really focus on at the bottom, keeping that weighted arm pulled back away from the weight while pinching it to your sides. Because if the weight does this and you're turned in any little bit away, you're going to be turning through here, and that's going to cause a torque, which I don't want to be the one responsible for creating on you on your wonderful Friday. So let's really use caution and safety in mind with this. Don't just challenge yourself into a tight weekend, okay? So let's go ahead. We're going to go 30 seconds. I'm going to do about 5 on one side, and then I'm going to do 5 on the other side. If you have a little extra time, then do a couple and then do a couple. Just keep yourself even. Make sure you don't shoot through the whole time on one side. All right, ready? And shoot it up. Make sure that you're letting that elbow track wide and you're catching it right on your wrist without the bang. If it keeps banging, then you need to do less bicep curl and more chicken wing. Think about your elbow just floating wide and using that hip power to drive that arm up and to make sure you're square. And set the weight down. Wow, it's perfect. It was like 5. I love it when that actually works. So that was our 4th set. We have one more. All right, and so for that last one, we're going to do a thruster. I told you it was coming. And so this is where I like the 5, because if I were feeling like, ooh, I've got a heavy day, or I'm kind of tired, I don't really want to push myself too much, I could go with the band again. It's just as easy. But because I'm feeling good, I want to do a little bit harder, I want to challenge myself to do the hardest thing to do well, I'm going to use those heavy ones that I didn't really want to use earlier, because now I'm feeling ready for them. I'm charged up. So this is your 5th set. Do with it what you need. Either reduce it down a little bit. Maybe you push yourself too hard. Or amp it up a little bit. Maybe you need to do a little bit harder. So let's go ahead and find whatever you're going to do. We got about 20 seconds before we start, so don't go too crazy getting ready. And again, guys, no matter what you are using, whether it be dumbbell or kettlebell, I need a straight wrist. If the kettlebell is like this or like this, it's going to cause issues here or here, guys. So it's really important that whatever weight you're using, you're number one imagining that knuckle is going straight towards the sky. And you also want to make sure you feel length and stretch coming through there. We never want to feel pinching or rounding, okay? So let's go ahead and let's get this last one out of the way. 30 seconds. If you're doing something that's really heavy and you just can't quite do it perfectly every time, you can always switch to a single arm and just bring both weights down. So you could always do an alternating and then a double, because double's harder in thrusters than singles, okay? But even if you're doing singles, I need weight in 2 hands, okay? All right, so let's go ahead. Woo! Be ready? Grab your weights, pick them up, put them into your position. And now squat the hips back, punch them up with the arms and the knees and the hips. Imagine everything loading back and then punching up. Coiling those armpits back and down, opening the hips and then exploding up. Bringing those ribs down to the floor as you push up. Stay in the middle of your feet and make sure no part of your foot lifts off except for your arches. Last one. And set them down. Relax, walk away, shake out your arms, roll out your shoulders. Give yourself a pat on the back, guys. That's what I love about these sets is they're difficult, but there's an end to them that doesn't seem that far off, right? So let's see. Let me grab my watch so I can see what we have for time. So we've got 5 minutes. So we're gonna do a little stretch, a little release, something to go out feeling good with. I'd like you to have a head support, a big green band if you have one. If you don't have a big band like I have, then what I'd like you to do is use the closest thing to this stretch that we're gonna do is probably a bit of a down dog. But what I want you to do with that down dog is just work on feeling your beast butt stick up in the air, and then just work on pushing your knees straight. Keep the elbows straight, pushing with the shoulders away from the hands, and then release down. So if you do not have a band, this is what you can do. Just make sure you're not trying to get your heels to the floor if it comes at the sacrifice of your back rounding out. We really need that back to stay in a nice little neutral curve. We also need to push our boobs and our chin away from the floor to make sure we're not in too much of a curve. So that's what you're doing if you're not doing the stretch with the band. If you have your band, lay down, put your head support on the ground, and let's go ahead and put the band around. I like to try and put it a little bit more towards the top of my foot so that way I can get a little bit more of the ankle stretch in. But if you're new to getting your foot into this thing, just get it somewhere near your arch, okay? So with this, your job is to never feel like your leg is suspended in the air like that. I want to feel like I'm holding my leg. If I try to drop my foot right now, I can't. If I try to push my foot to the ground and I let go of all my muscle, the band actually keeps it up. So that's what you want to feel like. We never want to feel like your hip is holding your foot up. And I might tell you, hey, drop your foot into the band and make sure you feel that want to happen more than you're like up here holding this, okay? So let's make sure the other leg is down long. And what I want you to do first is just bring that leg down to the ground. You can even let all the stretch go, but don't let it come off your foot. Keep the stretch enough on that. And I want you just to position your legs where you feel like they're in an A-frame, a narrow enough A-frame, but not really pinching. And if you're not sure, look down. Your feet should be somewhere near the edge of the mat while you're in the middle. And so what I want you to do now, pull that leg up. And if you imagine or you picture, visualize where that leg was just lying down, I want you to push your heel and a straight leg down to that same position. No wider, no narrower. Just think about driving length out towards the wall ahead of you as you drive your heel towards that same position on the mat that it just was down on. So let's go ahead and make sure those elbows are anchored down. Your abs and lats are supporting that band. You're not pinching your shoulders up towards your ears. And now let's go ahead and drive that heel down to that outer edge of the mat. And then let the muscles go in the back of your leg. And just let the band pull you into whatever stretch you can get to where your knee does not bend. And you can let your toe come up towards your face. We do not want to have a pointing toe here. We want to think about the toe cocking back towards our face. And so let's do another one of those where we drive that heel out and away from us as we reach down towards the outer edge of that mat. And now just let the band take my released leg back up towards with the ceiling. And now we're going to go ahead and switch to the other side. Let's bend your leg just a little bit, and the easiest way to do it is to transfer your feet right into the other one so you don't have to re-loop it and throw it around your foot. And same thing, let's bring that leg down, bring the other one down, look, make sure you see that nice A-frame position so it's visually there. And now let's bring that leg up, put some choke up onto that band, bring the elbows down so we support our lats and our abs. And now let's push your heel down to that position while driving length through your groin and your middle of your kneecap. Actually, sorry, middle of your knees. Also, make sure your shoulders stay away from your ears. It's really easy to kind of start crunching them up as we're using these bands. These bands are hard to hold and they get tired after a while. So let's do two more. Driving through the middle of your knee to drive down into the ground with that heel. And then feel the whole hip release as the leg stays straight and it just floats up to where it can, and let the toe fall up towards the face. Make sure the hip is totally dead, and if you were to relax it, it would fall because it's just resting in that band. And now let's go ahead and do one more. Push down to the outer edge of the mat, feel that length coming through your groin, and then float the leg up as the toe is coming up towards your face. Do not let the knee bend at all. Nice exhale here. And go ahead and bend the knee. Come on out. Bring yourself on up to a sit. You can finish with a shin box as we just kind of go out from the class. But hopefully you saw that it was pretty quick, painless. We got through in 31 minutes. Sorry I kept you an extra minute, but it doesn't take a lot, guys, to feel really good and to be able to do this stuff yourself. So if you're interested in the 30-day challenges, let me know. I'll be more than happy to show you where you can have access to them, and I'll see you next week. All right, guys, have a great weekend.